Alright, so hello everyone. Today we will be learning about AWS Lambda functions. So before we jump onto it, let's learn what are functions. So functions are simply blocks of code that are used to execute a specific task. For example, a user wants to log in on a website. A backend function authenticates the user, or a user clicks on a product. The details that are displayed to the user are done by another function. Or when a user buys a product and pays for it, the payment processing is done by another function. So these different functions help us to have an application. So what do the servers have to in this? So servers are generally large computers that process and compute all the requests done by the user. It also includes managing the database, or in this case, doing all the back end work. So how and why we are learning about Lambda functions. So Lambda functions are like a wizard. You call them and they do the work, but they don't need any servers. The developers don't have to care about setting up servers and managing those servers because you have some functions that are performed when an event occurs, and that event could be set up by you. So how the Lambda function works. First, you write your code, and it could be in Python or JavaScript, and then you upload it to AWS. After that, you decide an event source. So event source is a particular event that is going to trigger your Lambda function. And in this case, we can take example of an S3 bucket. Now, so you can assign what happens to the S3 bucket, and then it is going to invoke your Lambda function. We can take example of a user who buys a product. So now those product details goes to the S3 bucket, and a Lambda function is executed. And that Lambda function, for example, could be sending an email notification to the buyer that you bought a particular product. So what are the benefits of the Lambda functions? So first, you don't have any server. You don't have to manage the server, and everything is cared by the AWS. Secondly, you only have to pay whenever your function is called. Whenever the users call that particular function, only then that only then you have to pay for it. Thirdly, though the application is highly scalable, it means that depending on the number of users you have, your application is automatically going to scale up. It means you don't have to care about your servers or the backend computational power to make your application work. Lastly, you don't have to set up any environments for your coding, whether it is Python, JavaScript. Everything is going to be taken care of by a cloud development kit. It allows you to write your Lambda functions without any setting up of anything. Where do we use it? So we know that data scientists use data sets to train their models, but before training their models, they have to clean their data. It means that they have to remove inconsistencies so that they can yield a proper result. So data scientists can run a Lambda function whenever they upload their dataset. And we can take an example of encrypting or encoding your data whenever you're uploading a file to the S3 bucket. What are the real world applications? So Vercel, a popular website, allows the developers to host their applications. It uses AWS Lambda functions for a serverless deployment, which means that whenever a user visits the website, the AWS Lambda function generates the content to display to the user or do all the backend when the user visits the website. Moreover, it is highly scalable. It means that automatically it scales up your application when the traffic increases. For example, in the holiday seasons, the number of users on a particular website increases. So automatically the Vercel scales your website. And in the backend, The AWS does all the work. Thank you for watching this presentation. I hope you understand everything. So let's revise what we learned. We learned about what are functions, what are servers, and how does AWS Lambda function are more beneficial in comparison to them. And then we learned some examples that uses AWS Lambda functions. Thank you. That's all.